The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with its usual arrogance. 67 species, each believing themselves superior to the primitive mammals from Sol 3. Ambassador Elena Voss sat in the smallest chair at the furthest corner, fingers drumming a patient rhythm on the cold metal table. Her eyes held that peculiar human quality that had unsettled aliens for 3 decades, the ability to smile while calculating exactly how to dismantle someone's entire existence. "Order! Order!" screeched Prime Speaker Zelfak, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. The Volokans always got excited when discussing human limitations. "We gathered today to address the continued disruption caused by the human delegation." Elena's smile widened. "Oh, this was going to be delicious." "The motion before us," Zelfak continued, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction, "is to restrict human expansion beyond their current 12 systems. They have proven themselves unfit for galactic civilization." A ripple of approval flowed through the chamber. The crystalline Nexari chimed their agreement. The gaseous Etherians pulsed with smug contentment. The reptilian Vorics hissed their support. Same old song, different verse. Elena stood slowly, deliberately. The chamber fell silent, except for the ambient hum of life support systems, keeping dozens of incompatible species breathing the same recycled air. "Prime Speaker," she began, her voice carrying that deceptively pleasant tone humans use when they were about to deliver devastating news. "Before we proceed with this fascinating discussion about our limitations, perhaps you could explain why 3 Volokan mining vessels were spotted stripping asteroids in the Tau Ceti system yesterday?" Zelfak's confidence faltered. Just a flicker, but Elena caught it. Humans were excellent at reading micro-expressions, a skill that served them well in a galaxy full of terrible liars. We have no knowledge of such activities." "Of course not." Elena's laugh was silk over steel. "Just like you had no knowledge of the slave markets on Kepler 442b, or the weapons shipments to the Orion rebels, or the systematic genocide of the peaceful ones on Vega Prime." The chamber erupted. Accusations flew in 37 different languages. Elena simply stood there, hands clasped behind her back, watching the chaos unfold with the serene expression of someone who had just lit a very satisfying fuse. "Silence!" Zelfak's voice cracked through the din. These are baseless accusations from a species barely capable of interstellar travel." "Barely capable?" Elena's eyebrows rose in mock surprise. "How interesting. Tell me, Prime Speaker, how did your last 3 military campaigns against the Centauri collective end?" The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Everyone knew the answer. The mighty Volokan fleet, pride of their warrior culture, had been systematically dismantled by human-trained Centauri forces using tactics no one had seen before. "Those were anomalies," Zelfak stammered. "Anomalies?" "Yes." Elena nodded sagely. "Like the anomaly that wiped out your entire 5th Battle Group at Proxima Station. 67 ships. If I recall correctly, the survivors kept talking about ghosts. Human ghosts appearing from nowhere, striking without warning, vanishing before your sensors could track them." General Korthvax of the Voric Empire leaned forward, his scaled lips curling back from razor teeth. "You speak of warfare as if humans understand it. Soft flesh. Your species has existed for mere moments in galactic time. We have conquered systems when your ancestors were still eating each other in caves." Elena turned to face him, her smile never wavering. "General, how old is your empire exactly?" 7,000 years of glorious conquests." "Impressive. We've been fighting each other for our entire species history. Every single day. For millions of years. We perfected warfare to an art form you couldn't comprehend if you lived another 7,000 years. The Nexari ambassador chimed in with crystalline arrogance. "Violence is the refuge of the intellectually inferior. We have transcended such base instincts." "Have you?" Elena's voice took on that dangerous sweetness that made smart enemies very nervous. "Then perhaps you can explain why your research stations keep exploding whenever they attempt to reverse engineer human technology." "Those are technical difficulties." "Technical difficulties. Right." Elena began walking around the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the sudden quiet. "Would anyone like to know how many species have tried to conquer, enslave, or eliminate humanity in the past 30 years? No one answered. They knew the number. They also knew how many of those species still existed as functioning civilizations. 43. Elena continued conversationally. 43 different attempts. The hegemony tried orbital bombardment. The Zephyrians attempted biological warfare. The machine collective sent their finest hunter-killers. The psychic dominion tried mental domination. She paused, letting the silence stretch. Would anyone like to guess how many succeeded? The question was rhetorical. Everyone in the chamber knew the answer was 0. What they didn't know was how. The beautiful thing about humans, Elena said, settling back into her chair, is that we learn. Every attack teaches us something new. Every attempt at conquest gives us new ideas. Every species that tries to destroy us ends up making us stronger. Supreme Chancellor Vexhari of the Trade Federation finally spoke, his voice carrying the weight of political calculation. You cannot threaten the entire Galactic Council. Human. We represent trillions of beings across thousands of worlds. Elena's laugh was genuinely amused. Threaten? Chancellor, I haven't threatened anyone. I've simply been sharing historical facts and asking innocent questions. But since you brought up threats, she reached into her jacket and produced a small, unremarkable device. Would anyone like to know what this is? The device looked harmless enough. A small black cube with no visible controls or displays. But something about the way Elena held it, the careful reverence in her touch, sent ripples of unease through the assembled delegates. This, Elena said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, is a gift from Earth's finest military minds. A token of our appreciation for 30 years of attempted genocide, slavery, and general discourtesy. What does it do? Zelthak's voice had lost all its earlier bluster. Oh, nothing much. It's just a transmitter, sending a very simple signal to a very patient group of humans who have been waiting in very dark places for a very long time. The chamber was now completely silent except for the sound of several species holding their breath. You see, Elena continued, her tone becoming almost conversational, humans have this wonderful trait called pattern recognition. After the first few attempts to exterminate us, we started to notice certain tendencies in galactic politics. The way certain species always seem to vote together. The way trade routes always seem to favor certain worlds. The way certain ambassadors always seem to know things they shouldn't know. She stood again, holding the device up to catch the light. So we did what humans do best. We prepared. For 30 years, while you've been treating us like primitive savages, we've been watching, learning, planning, waiting. Waiting for what? Chancellor Vexhari's voice was barely a whisper. Elena's smile became something that would have made a shark proud. For you to finally push us far enough to lose our patience. The device in her hand began to pulse with a soft blue light. You want to restrict human expansion? Perfect. Let's discuss restrictions. Elena's voice carried the promise of incoming thunder. But first, perhaps you'd like to explain to your constituents why every major military installation, trade hub, and government center in your territories just went dark. The blue light pulsed faster. You see, while you've been debating our limitations, we've been eliminating yours. Every defense grid, every sensor network, every communication relay. We've been inside your system for years, waiting, watching, learning exactly how to turn your own technology against you. Panic began to ripple through the chamber as delegates frantically tried to contact their home worlds. The results were uniformly the same. Silence. Impossible, General Korthvac snarled, but his voice carried more desperation than conviction. Our security is impenetrable. General, you're talking to a species that learned to split atoms before we learned to fly between stars. We've been breaking impenetrable security since before your grandparents were hatched. Elena walked to the center of the chamber, the pulsing device casting eerie shadows on the walls. Now then, she said, her voice cutting to the growing chaos like a blade through silk. Shall we discuss the terms of your surrender? Because make no mistake, honored delegates, this isn't a negotiation anymore. The device pulsed one final time and went dark. This is the moment when humanity finally lost its patience. And no species in this galaxy will ever forget what happened next. The silence that followed was a kind that occurs just before the universe reshapes itself around a new and terrible reality. Elena Voss stood in the center of it all, smiling the patient smile of a species that had just revealed had been holding all the cards from the very beginning. Outside the chamber windows, the first human dreadnoughts began dropping out of hyperspace, their hulls black as a void between stars, their weapon systems charging with the promise of answers to 30 years of questions. The age of human patience was over. The age of consequences had begun. Hashtag no species will ever forget the moment when humans finally lost their patience. HFY. The first transmission came from Admiral Marcus Chin aboard the dreadnought Retribution. His voice filled the council chamber through speakers that should have been impossible to access without proper authorization codes. Council delegates. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are now under our protection, whether you want it or not. Elena couldn't help but chuckle at the collective confusion rippling through the chamber. Protection. Such a wonderfully ambiguous word. What does he mean, protection? Stammered Chancellor Vexhari, his Trade Federation's confidence evaporating like morning mist. Oh, Chancellor, Elena said, settling back into her chair with the satisfaction of someone watching a perfectly executed plan unfold. Admiral Chen means exactly what he said. We're protecting you from making any more catastrophically stupid decisions. The chamber's main display activated without authorization, showing a real-time tactical overview of local space. 47 human vessels hung in perfect formation around the station, their weapon signatures painting the darkness with promises of precision destruction. But that wasn't what made several delegates physically recoil from the screen. It was the other ships. Those are... Prime Speaker Zelthak's voice cracked like breaking glass. Those are our ships. Were your ships, Elena corrected pleasantly. Past tense is important here. Prime Speaker. Admiral, would you care to explain our new fleet composition? Chen's voice carried the professional courtesy of someone delivering a weather report. Certainly, Ambassador. In the past 6 hours, we have successfully liberated 342 vessels from various hostile fleets. The crews are unharmed and currently enjoying our hospitality in very secure locations. Liberated, General Korthvax repeated, his voice hollow. You mean stolen? General, we prefer the term involuntary donation to a better cause, Elena replied. Your ships were being used to oppress innocent civilians. We simply gave them a chance to serve a more constructive purpose. The Nexary ambassador's crystalline form shimmered with rage. This is piracy on an unprecedented scale. The Council will never accept this violation of sovereign space. Elena's laugh was sharp enough to cut diamond. Ambassador Zweigstau, with respect, the Council isn't in a position to accept or reject anything anymore. You see, while you've been arguing about our limitations, we've been redefining the concept of sovereignty. Another voice joined the communication, this one carrying a distinctly different accent. Council, this is Captain Sarah Kim of the exploration vessel Discovery. I'm currently in orbit around the Nexary homeworld of Crystallis Prime. Beautiful planet. Lovely cities. Shame if something happened to them. The chamber erupted into chaos again, but this time the panic was more focused, more desperate. Delegates frantically tried to reach their military commands, their governments, their fleets. The results were uniformly the same: silence, static, or the polite voices of human operators explaining that their calls were very important and would be answered in the order received. How? Supreme Chancellor Vexhari's voice was barely a whisper. How did you do this? Elena stood and walked the display, where the tactical overview continued to update in real time. More human ships dropping out of hyperspace. More alien vessels going dark. More systems falling under human protection. Chancellor, you really want to know? Fine. Let me tell you a story about patience. She turned to face the assembled delegates, her expression shifting from amused satisfaction to something far more dangerous. 30 years ago, when humanity first joined this council, we were naive. We actually believed in galactic cooperation, mutual respect, peaceful coexistence. Adorable, right? We thought we could contribute our unique perspectives and maybe learn something from older, wiser civilizations. The sarcasm in her voice could have powered a small starship. But then funny things started happening. Our trade requests were denied for technical reasons. Our territorial claims were rejected for administrative complications. Our diplomatic initiatives were blocked for procedural irregularities. And somehow, every time we tried to expand or defend ourselves, we found ourselves facing mysteriously well-coordinated opposition. Elena began pacing again, her footsteps marking time like a countdown. So we did what humans do when faced with systematic oppression. We adapted. We learned. We prepared. And most importantly, we remembered every single slight, every betrayal, every attempt to keep us contained. This is madness, Zelthak protested. You cannot simply invade the entire galaxy. Invade! Elena's eyebrows rose in mock surprise. Prime Speaker, we haven't invaded anything. We've simply been better house guests than you realized. For 3 decades, every trade mission you approved carried more than trade goods. Every diplomatic exchange included more than diplomatic personnel. Every cultural program delivered more than cultural understanding. The implications hit the chamber like a physical blow. You planted spies, General Korthvax accused. We planted friends, Elena corrected. The difference is important. Spies gather information. Friends become part of the family. They marry locals, have children, build businesses, join militaries, enter government service. They become indispensable. Captain Kim's voice crackled through the speakers again. Council, I'm now receiving surrender requests from 14 different Nexri defense platforms. Apparently, their human-trained engineering crews have decided that cooperation is preferable to unemployment. Traitors, Zwaxtal hissed. Patriots, Elena countered. People who chose a better future over a dying past. See, that's the thing about humans. We're really good at making friends. And our friends tend to realize that their old bosses weren't treating them very well. The display updated again, showing more systems switching from red to blue. The speed of the transition was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. This is impossible, Chancellor Vexhari protested. No species could coordinate an operation of this magnitude. Chancellor, you're absolutely right. No single species could. But we didn't do this alone. Elena's smile became genuinely warm for the first time. Turns out, when you spend 30 years oppressing everyone equally, you create a lot of potential allies. As if summoned by her words, new voices joined the communication channel. Captain Tvara of the Centauri Collective, Commander Zephyr of the Free Colonies, Admiral Singh of the Outer Rim Alliance, dozens of species, hundreds of worlds, all speaking with unified purpose. The age of council dominance is over, declared Captain Tvara. The age of true cooperation begins now. Elena walked back to her chair and sat down, watching as the reality of the situation finally penetrated the delegate's shock. So here's how this works, she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone backed by the largest fleet in galactic history. The Galactic Council is dissolved, effective immediately. The oppressive trade restrictions, territorial limitations, and diplomatic barriers that kept smaller species subjugated are hereby null and void. You cannot simply dissolve the Council. Zelthak protested. We have laws, procedures, treaties. Had, Elena corrected, past tense again. Those laws were written by conquerors to benefit conquerors. We're writing new ones. General Korthvax leaned forward, his warrior's instincts finally overriding his shock. And if we refuse, if we fight, Elena's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes made the temperature in the chamber seem to drop several degrees. General, you're welcome to try. But before you do, let me share some numbers with you. In the past 6 hours, we have neutralized 4,317 military installations, captured or converted 8,212 vessels, and established control over 639 strategic systems. We did this without firing a single shot or killing a single being. She paused to let that sink in. We could have done it differently. We could have opened with orbital bombardments, biological weapons, or any of the other charming tactics your species have attempted to use on us. But we chose patience. We chose precision. We chose to demonstrate that there's a better way. What do you want? Chancellor Vexhari asked, his voice heavy with defeat. We want what we've always wanted, Elena replied. Peace. Cooperation. A galaxy where species compete through innovation instead of oppression, where trade benefits everyone instead of just the powerful, where conflict is resolved through negotiation instead of genocide. And if we agree to these terms, then you get to help build something better. Your expertise, your resources, your perspectives, all valuable, all welcome, under proper supervision, of course. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of life support and the occasional crackle of communication from the fleet outside. The choice is yours, Elena continued. You can accept the new reality and help shape a better future, or you can cling to the old ways and discover exactly why 43 species have failed to stop humanity. One by one, the delegates began to nod their acceptance, some reluctant, some resigned, a few even showing signs of relief. Excellent, Elena said, her smile returning to its earlier warmth. Welcome to the Galactic Cooperative. We think you're going to like the new management style. As the delegates began the complex process of surrendering their authority to species they had spent decades oppressing, Elena allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Humanity had indeed lost its patience. But in doing so, they had gained something far more valuable. They had gained a galaxy. Outside the chamber windows, human ships continued their peaceful occupation of local space, their crews already beginning the monumental task of dismantling an empire built on oppression and replacing it with something unprecedented in galactic history. A civilization built on cooperation instead of conquest. It was going to be beautiful.